In this video, I'm going to be talking about self-harm, just so you're aware. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm AT, and today's video is going to be a little different than the other ones I've been doing. I've been doing vlogs and stuff like that, but today I decided to do like a little sit down. I'm getting over a cold, so ignore how terrible I sound. Anyway, I realized that this channel doesn't have a how did this all get started or why am I doing this kind of thing, and I decided to do that today. I'm so sorry for that noise throughout the video, guys. Talkingwithat.com, which is my blog, which I haven't done in a while, but I would say keep an eye on it because I do plan to start working on some stuff again. But the blog and, my YouTube channel, Talking with AT, they're both inspired by my journey with my mental health and my self-harm. Hold on, this is just terrible. Anyway, they're both inspired by my mental health journey. When I was about 10 years old, I started to self-harm. The first thing I remember doing was biting myself. I would bite myself all the time until I had like bruises on my arm or my finger. And that would occur anytime I felt angry or sad or just some emotion that I didn't really know how to process. And then in middle school, that's when I kind of elevated to actually like breaking the skin. I was just kind of scratching myself with things that I would find for the same reason when I would feel sad or angry. I made a friend when I was in middle school who was also cutting herself, and we kind of found comfort in each other. So we kind of had this secret together. So that kind of made me feel a little more normal, which is good and bad. Good because I didn't feel like an outcast, but bad because it feeling normal meant I should keep doing it in my head. You know what I mean? So that was middle school. And it was pretty secret at that time too. Nobody really knew that I was doing it, just this friend. It was very minimal and easily hidden at the time. High school comes around, and this is kind of when things elevated for sure. I went to a public school, and it was a whole new world for me. I went to private school for most of my life. So when I went to high school, it was public, and it was crazy. It was like a whole culture shock for me. And dealing with that, and also dealing with just my own, personal struggles and stuff like that. And, at the time, I didn't know that I had anxiety. I didn't know I was battling depression. I didn't know any of those things. I just thought I was just a sad, moody person. You know what I mean? And dealing with that, and like I said, in high school, it was just too much for me. I would always cut myself. I was much more secret about it then because no one wants to be named as that girl that, the moody girl that cuts herself. It's just not a thing. And also, too, high school is when I started to kind of really struggle with my appearance and the way that I looked. It happened in middle school too, but high school, I think it just really hit home that I was uncomfortable with how I looked. I will probably make a separate video, but I'll give you guys a little backstory on that. I've always struggled with being a dark-skinned girl. Growing up, there wasn't a lot of, black kids, and there was even less dark-skinned kids. And on TV, I didn't see dark-skinned women. I just saw light-skinned women. It was, white or light skin and the curly hair and the light eyes or the blonde hair and it's straight. All of these things that I just wasn't. And in high school, it was like, wow, those are the types of women that these guys that I have crushes on want. They don't want me because of, my skin's too dark or my hair's too kinky and all of these things. And as I've gotten older, I realized that's not true for everybody. That is not how everybody feels. But in high school, that seemed like the only type of guy or only type of girl that a guy wanted, and that wasn't me. And so that hit me hard. I struggled with that for a really long time, and I would cut more in high school because I was sad and because I had low self-esteem and I started to feel really worthless. That's the best word I could put with it. That's when I started to recognize the feeling of worthlessness, and I equated it to my physical appearance. But as I got older, I realized there was more to it. But yeah, high school was one of those rough times for me. High school is also when my mom found out that I was self-harming. And, she and I talked about it, and I was like, Mom, it's nothing, I'm fine, just kind of brushed it under the rug. She let it go, you know what I mean? My dad also let it go, but I just kept doing it. I just got really good at hiding it. From that moment on, I realized, okay, don't tell anybody about this and get really good at hiding it. And that's what I did. College came around. Again, another shock because now I'm going from high school, finally got that master. Now I'm moving to college. I moved 4 hours away from home. I went with my two best friends that I had known since I was in third grade, so I wasn't alone. But still, it was a whole new world for all of us to kind of navigate. And we kind of started to grow apart, as you know, young adults do. And I took it really hard that we were all kind of going in our own direction. I didn't do well with change, and it was very difficult for me to accept that we were all just learning different things and living different lives. One of my friends, we're going to call her Vanessa. Vanessa decided that the school we were going to wasn't going to work for her anymore, and she was having some family stuff that she needed to be home for. So she transferred back home to a school that was closer and also a school that had what she needed. So she left. So that left me and Nicole. So now that Vanessa's gone, it's just me and Nicole. Me and Nicole have always been the best of friends, never had any issues. Well, Nicole started dating someone and I started dating someone, so we kind of didn't have time for each other anymore, and just things just kind of shifted. We were just very focused on our own lives and our boyfriends and just shit like that. So our friendship broke apart. That hurt so much, you guys. I just remember feeling empty and lost because I never thought that that would happen. And I was still cutting, but this is the time that it started to get worse. This is when it started to get alarming. The cuts were a lot deeper and had become a little bit harder to hide at this point. I remember specifically my friend Nicole and my boyfriend at the time, they got really worried about me. They were like, okay, she's not doing well. She's very depressed. She's very sad all the time, and she's definitely cutting herself. So they took me to the school therapist. That didn't work. That didn't work well because I walked in and got to talking to her, and she just made me feel like I couldn't trust her, and I left and never came back. So there's that. That was my first experience with therapy, and it didn't go well. So that kind of put a negative thought in my head about therapy. So it will be years until I was actually ready to see another therapist. But yeah, college was a thing. I was cutting then. Graduated from college, moved to Atlanta with my boyfriend at the time. He and I had been together at that point for like 6 years, I think. And I went to film school. That was really fun. You know, things were good. And I just kind of stopped cutting cold turkey. Like, I just wasn't doing it. But I was still very depressed. I dare to say I was even more depressed than I'd ever been in my life. But I wasn't feeling anything. I was very numb. I'd gotten really good at being numb. And I didn't know that. I didn't know I was being numb. I didn't know that I was disconnecting. But that's exactly what I was doing. I lived in that disconnected state of life. Speed it up. We had been in Atlanta for probably about 2 or 3 years at this time. My mom passed away. After that, my world, it fell apart. And I honestly don't even know if it's even back together now. But, yeah, my mom died. Yeah. Yeah. And then a year later, he and I broke up. And I had to move back home, and it was kind of like a shock when I got home. The house was still very much like she left it. My dad was still here. My younger brother had moved back home to kind of help my dad out, and it just, when I got here, it was just too much, y'all. It was too much to be in the home where my mom was. And again, I was disconnected, so I hadn't really dealt with her being gone. And when I got home, it all hit me like a freight train. My dad was living his life trying to, you know, deal with his own, sadness and things. My younger brother was doing the same thing, and I was dealing with a breakup and now having to really face that I wasn't over my mom's passing. And it had only been a year since she had died since I'd moved back. So I guess it was normal for me to not have dealt with it, but it hit me hard. And so just everything was just piled on top of me. I was just dealing with all kinds of emotions, and I was feeling way too much. And I was like, oh, how do I get out of this? I cut myself. That's what I've done forever. Let's do that. And that's when I started doing it again. And I got into it. This is when things got bad. This was as bad as it has ever been in my life. I definitely should have been hospitalized, but I was really good at hiding it. I can say that I probably fooled a lot of people, but I got to the point where I started to scare myself, where I knew that the next step of my life would be the end of it, so to speak, because I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse. My thoughts were getting worse. They were getting dark, really negative, you guys. And so I forced myself to go to therapy. I probably went to 2 sessions and didn't talk. Like, I just kind of sat there. And she was like, okay, well, let's talk about medication. Have you thought about medicine for, your depression or your anxiety? And I was like, no, I don't need medicine. Okay, so I left. I didn't even try therapy again for another 2 years. speed it up till now, till like the past year. I have been in therapy for 3 years now. I've committed to going. I am on medicine. I can talk about that too if you guys want a video about it. But I do take medicine now. I'm proud of myself. I've grown a lot. I still very much deal with my depression and my anxiety. I'm actually super down today. I haven't been doing that great today, but I haven't self-harmed, and that's something I'm proud of. The last time I self-harmed really badly was probably January of this year. I had a relapse. I can talk about that too if you guys want to hear about that. And probably to May or June, I think, I relapsed again. So I'm not coming to you guys with this, oh, I figured everything out. I haven't. I really haven't. I'm just a regular girl and I put my story out there to help somebody else, because growing up, I didn't have anybody that understood what I was going through. There was nothing about mental health really, you know what I'm saying, in the 90s and early 2000s. That's not what we talked about. And definitely there wasn't a black girl cutting herself, because society would have you think that that's only something that white people deal with or only women deal with, and that's not true. And also only teenagers, it's not true either. I'm an adult and I still very much deal with it. If you don't treat certain issues, you know, in childhood, they might stay with you, and cutting is something that has stayed with me. I made this channel to help people. I made this channel to bring light to people. Thanks for watching. I hope this was informative. I hope this gave you a little bit of background about me. I don't like to get too in depth about my life. I don't want to put all of my business on the internet, but I do want to give enough that I can help somebody. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.